It was great. Okay, so Michelle just introduced us, so I think we should just dive right in. So firstly, thank you all for coming. I know it's very early. Some of us probably went to sleep very late last night, and I know there's a concert going on right now. I wonder if I can, does that work? Can you guys still hear me? Perfect. I know there's a concert, so thank you all for coming here. I am really excited because we get to show off our new product, and I hope you guys learned something today as well. So here's our favorite slide. Okay, Michelle, take it away.
All right.
Oh.
So this morning, what we're going to be doing is a little bit of role playing. So we're going to channel some of that energy from the concert last night. How many of you guys in the room are Salesforce developers? Salesforce admins? What about people on the business side of your companies? Awesome. So we have a great variety, but today we're all going to be one personality. We're all going to be Alicia. Can you tell us more about what Alicia does, Tim?
So Alicia, I don't know who went to the concert last night, but Alicia has a voice that is more pure than my Brita filtered water, which is quite pure, and teeth that are brighter than my future. But more specifically, today we are all Alicia, and Alicia is bright and energetic and ambitious. She's a Salesforce administrator or a Salesforce developer working for the company Pools on Fire. And Pools on Fire has decided to sign on to Salesforce IoT and use Salesforce IoT Explorer to solve their business problems. So this morning, what we're going to learn, what Alicia's going to learn, is she's going to learn a very simple way to use Salesforce IoT to monitor the pH levels of her swimming pools. And so when the pH level goes crazy, she's going to use Salesforce IoT to take care of it.
Awesome. All right, so there we go. So what we're going to do today is start out with some quick IoT concepts, give you a really fast overview. We'll keep the fluff down to a minimum, and then we're going to get hands-on with the live product. So we're going to go through how to make platform events, if some of you have been attending the platform event keynotes, I believe. And we're going to teach you how to do that, in case you haven't done it yet. And then we're going to jump into the new IoT product. We're going to build two IoT objects. One is called a context, and one is called an orchestration. And then finally, we're going to let you leave with a couple tips that are necessary for you to be successful as you start this journey into IoT. All right, so let's jump into it and talk about platform events a little bit. So
before that, maybe it would be a good idea
perfect
to do an overview.
Absolutely. That would obviously be great for people to figure out how this product actually works. So when a lot of people think about IoT, I think that what they traditionally think about is sort of that IoT infrastructure, the sort of devices, the connectivity, how do you manage those devices? Those are all definitely really important parts of an IoT investment. But what we're focusing on with our IoT Explorer product is another component, which is this customer engagement aspect. So we're going to allow you to leverage that existing or perhaps future investment in the IoT infrastructure in your devices and your sensors. We're going to help you find ways to actually turn it into a customer experience that you can capitalize on. So we're going to do that through three key points, and that's going to be allowing you to rapidly innovate. So you're going to be able to quickly try out use cases, figure out if they actually satisfy what your customers are looking for, and if it doesn't work, try something else. We're also going to allow you to leverage all of the data that you already have in Salesforce. So those great CRM objects that you've built up over the years, you're going to be able to utilize those in IoT to bring additional context to all the event data that's coming in from your devices. And finally, we're going to do this as near real time as possible. We want to make sure that we're not having customers be in that sort of unhappy experience where something breaks or something goes wrong. They have to get on the phone, figure out what number to call, and get in touch. What we actually want to move to is a proactive service model, a proactive sales model, reaching out to our customers and providing them with an experience rather than having them reactively chase us down.
Nice.
All right, so quick overview of the architecture. Any IoT system, at least on the application side, needs a couple components. Number one, you got to get all that data in somehow. So again, we're going to do that via platform events. We'll show you how to set that up. Two, we're going to join those event data with the context data that is already in Salesforce. Salesforce objects, anything that you want to leverage from your existing Salesforce install. So that's going to be the context. This is a new IoT object. The second new IoT object that you're going to learn about today is called an orchestration, and that is the rules engine. That's where the brains of IoT actually happens. Within that rules engine, you will be able to define outputs. Those outputs are going to be what drives that customer experience, what drives internal cost savings, for instance, in your organization. So that is the, in a nutshell, overview, and now let's jump into some new learning. Platform events. So Alicia, how are you feeling?
What is a platform event?
All right, let's talk about platform events a little bit. So I know some of you have been attending the keynotes and learning a lot about platform events. I've been getting a lot of questions. But in a nutshell, it is an event-driven publish-subscribe model. So you push event messages into Salesforce. Multiple Salesforce subscribers can listen to those messages and act on them. So IoT can consume any platform event that you have created in your organization already. That allows you to leverage any existing investment in that, and also to ensure that events that you are sending in can be used for multiple use cases. So it's not just going to be something that's custom made for IoT. You can leverage it in other Salesforce products that you create. If you want to learn more, there's two ways I would suggest. There is a wonderful trailhead that goes through some hands-on learning and will check all your work, get you some nice badges and some points. So go ahead and check that out. And additionally, there's another session tomorrow morning at 11:15 a.m. that is about how to make platform events more useful, specifically for IoT. That's going to go into using Apex triggers to look through demuxing and filtering operations on platform events.
Are you telling me that the same way I get data into Salesforce using platform events for any other service is the same way that I get data into Salesforce IoT?
I am, Alicia. You're a very, very bright young woman.
That is outrageous. That is outrageous.
So let's go ahead and actually get hands-on with the product and figure out how this all works. Sound good?
Excellent.
All right, so let's go ahead into your Salesforce org. And the first thing we're going to do is go into the Setup tab. So platform events and all of your IoT objects exist in Setup. So go ahead and search for platform events in Quick Find for me. And what we're going to do is create a new platform event.
Why?
Well, do you have anything set up already for your use case?
I don't. If I recall correctly, my use case is monitoring the pH level of swimming pools, and I haven't set that up yet.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and get started.
OK.
So new platform event.
Wonderful.
And let's go ahead and give it a name that is perhaps related to the use case, which is that you're monitoring the pH levels of your swimming pools.
That's right. I have pH sensors in my swimming pools, so they're going to send stuff in. Excellent.
All right, so we'll go ahead and call it pH reading. Very appropriate. And go ahead and continue filling out this form. So this is just like setting up any custom object in Salesforce, right? Platform events are not a significantly different setup experience. And just as with other custom objects, we're going to go ahead and add a couple custom fields. So I think the first field that we probably need to actually add to this platform event is something that can record that pH level.
Yes. That's a number. OK. So if it's recording the pH level, I might just call it the pH.
Perfect.
Ooh, autocomplete. And pH levels are between 1 and 14, and we only have 1 digit of precision usually, so there you go.
OK, so go ahead and save that. And now there's one other field that I'm going to ask you to add to this platform event that might not seem obvious at first.
OK.
Think about your company, though. How many swimming pools do you have sending data into Salesforce on any given day?
More than 687.
More than 687. So you need a way to be able to differentiate which pool sent a pH reading. Because if we don't know where bad pH readings came from, there's no way for us to actually go take action on that particular pool.
Are you saying that I basically need to identify the pool that is sending in the pH reading?
Brilliant, I am. So let's go ahead and add a field that utilizes perhaps a serial number. Do you have any information like that about your pools?
I do.
Perfect.
And
It's
so
a wonderful coincidence.
let us call that the pool ID.
Cool.
Probably less than 30 characters.
All right, and let's go ahead and make that field required because this is going to be a piece of data that's always necessary for us to take action. So we want to make sure we always get that on our platform events.
Everything needs a name in this world.
All right, so now your platform event is actually set up, and I think that's all that's left for us to do is actually test it out.
So with like 10 clicks, I basically set up an endpoint that I can have my sensors pump data into.
Exactly, it was that simple.
That is simple.
So are you familiar with Workbench at all, Alicia?
Absolutely. I love Workbench.
All right, so let's go ahead into Workbench, and we'll try sending a platform event to test and make sure that we did this correctly and know how to get the data in.
OK, so there's my login.
Perfect. So when you go into Workbench, you're going to go into REST Explorer. And there, when you create a platform event or publish a platform event, you're posting it. So we're going to select Post.
OK.
And then go ahead and add S-objects here, and then the API name of your platform event.
Now, what was that? Oh, it's right there.
So go ahead and copy-paste that over into your REST Explorer. And then for the body of this message, what you need to send in is information about those two fields that we defined. So we're going to want to create a body that has two fields using the API names again. So this is just like creating any other custom object using the REST Explorer.
I think 7.5 is, your good
Good normal
Good
pH
normal
for a swimming
pH
pool.
level, out of my experience as a swimming
Pool owner.
Yes.
All right, and then for that ID, I don't know if off the top of your head you would remember any of the IDs of pools that have been installed recently.
I do indeed. It is the one that we just did. It is 235711131719.
Wonderful. Okay, so it seems like we have someone with a photographic memory here, but let's go ahead and actually test this out, make sure that we have everything set up correctly.
By hitting this button.
By hitting
that big
execute,
button.
yes,
Okay.
the big button.
Wow.
Okay, and we have a
Wow.
success message, so that means that Salesforce has successfully accepted this new platform event record. So I think that now we're ready to actually hook that up to IoT and figure out how to make some sense from that data that's coming in.
That was so easy.
That was really easy.
I just got data into Salesforce.
Exactly.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, so that's how to get data into Salesforce. Now, Michelle shall be Alicia, and I'm going to put my teacher hat back on. Okay, so now what we've done is we've basically just set up an endpoint for your devices to send data into Salesforce. What we need to do next, though, is tell Salesforce IoT, hey, I want you to listen to this data so that you can turn it into value for me. And so the way we do that is by establishing a world of IoT, and we call that world the context. It's the world where you bring in the data from your devices, and you sort of marry it with the data that's inside of CRM core. You figure out, oh, I got all these pools sending in different events. I'm going to find the pool objects with the rich CRM data that's inside of Salesforce core. I'm going to bring it together so I have a full 360-degree eagle-eye view of what's going on. All right, so the best thing to do it is just to do it. What do you think, Alicia?
Sounds great. I'm excited to get my hands on IoT.
Okay, so this is where we finally dip our toes into IoT. Let's go back to setup and search IoT. And go ahead and click on contexts, Alicia.
Wow, so Salesforce IoT really is just in setup.
It is indeed. And that is the dictionary definition for context. Okay, there's only one button, so let's click it. Oh, there's a TV screen there. Wonderful. Okay. All right, Alicia, what's on your mind right now?
So, well, I guess I'm supposed to say Empire State of Mind. I don't know many Alicia Keys songs, so this is going to be rough. So I'm trying to build a use case about swimming pools, so I guess the sort of contextual information that I have in Salesforce is a swimming pool custom object that I've already created.
Exactly. This is the world of the swimming pool now.
So I'll go ahead and call this context swimming pool. And then the next thing that I want to do, I guess, is add that Salesforce object to the context.
Right, because what we're doing is we're establishing a world and we need to pull CRM data into it. And so we're telling Salesforce IoT, hey, in my world called swimming pool, bring in the information about my swimming pool custom object.
So there's a new field here that I've never seen before when working in Salesforce, and that's this object key field. So can you tell me more about what I need to select there?
Well, tell me, what do you think when you hear the word key?
It kind of reminds me of database keys, so like primary keys or foreign keys.
Indeed. And so what's happening here is we have a lot of swimming pools sending in event data at this point. And we have to figure out some way to distinguish them from each other and figure out exactly which pools those events map to. And we call that a key. And so as you can see here, there's two different Johns with two different pools, right? And so when John's pool sends in the data, we have to figure out some way to say, yo, this is John Newman's pool, not John Babbitt's pool. And so we do that with a key. We look in the event, and we find a field on that event. And we tell Salesforce, hey, Salesforce, look at this object. When an event comes in, look at that key on the event, and look for the Salesforce record whose key matches that, and tie them together. And so now we can easily say, oh, John's pool is John Newman's pool. And Sophie's pool matches to Sophie's pool. And Alan's pool matches to Alan's pool. Excellent. Why else is it called a key, though? There's something even more important to remember here. Keys open locks, and locks are on treasure chests, including treasure. And this treasure, which is very important to us, is customer success. And so this key is a key to customer success. So Alicia, choose that key. What identifies your swimming pool?
So when I set up the custom object, I have an ID field, which basically maps to that unique identifier of the swimming pool that we installed.
Right, and that's why, remember, what type is that field?
It's a string field.
And that's why Alicia proactively put string in the key type right there. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. So we've just created a world of our swimming pool that has our swimming pool record CRM data. Alicia, what are we missing?
The only thing I haven't hooked up yet is that platform event that I just created.
Exactly. We haven't told Salesforce IoT, yo, Salesforce IoT, listen to this platform event. Because what we need to remember is platform events are a shared service. So there's going to be a lot of different platform events publishing information. We need to tell IoT which ones are relevant to the world of the swimming pool. OK, so click there. All right. Which platform event do you think is relevant to this swimming pool, Alicia?
Well, the one that I just created to monitor the pH levels was pH reading, so I'll go ahead and select that. And then I'm guessing I need to select the key field that will do that mapping for me.
Exactly.
And that was this pool ID field.
Right. And that is text. Remember that?
Yes.
2357111311719.
Yes, I do remember that.
OK. So let's take a step back. What we've just done now is we've established the world of the swimming pool. And we've told Salesforce, hey, when an event comes in to this event platform reading, pH reading, listen to it. Then when it comes in, look at the key, pool IDC on that event. Find me the swimming pool record whose ID __C, the ID of the pool, matches that event. Bring them together, and now I have a 360 view of my object. But we haven't turned that into business value yet. All we've done is set up a world. And so the next thing we need to do is actually do something with that world, and that's what we call the orchestration. So we're going to go through how to build an orchestration. So what is an orchestration? An orchestration really has two big pointers. The first one is a rules engine. This is where you sort of write your business rules, your business logic in sort of a declarative state, declarative manner. The second thing you do is you actually turn it into action. And this is sort of where the magic of IoT is. It's two things. The declarative rules engine, which you'll see soon, and finally the ability to create any custom object or any standard object that hooks right into the rest of your Salesforce processes. So you could create work orders. Work orders go to Service Cloud and Field Service Lightning. You could create opportunities for Sales Cloud. And so that's how sort of Salesforce IoT translates sort of data into value. OK, so let's jump right into it, Alicia. How are you feeling today?
I'm really excited to start actually bringing some of this value to my customers.
And you picked your keys, Alicia.
I did pick Alicia's keys.
Wonderful. OK. Orchestrations. Let's go ahead. And we got none right now because our company just got onto Salesforce IoT. So there's one button there. Let's click it. All right. So this orchestration is going to serve our use case. It's going to fulfill our goal of translating swimming pool pH readings into business value. So let's name it something, because everything needs a name in this world.
I'm going to go ahead and call it pH monitoring.
Exactly. Wonderful. And this orchestration, this piece of business logic, is going to live in the world of what? Well, there's only one world right now.
It's living in the swimming pool world, which has all the information about the pH readings as well as the swimming pool custom objects I already have.
Exactly. That's the context. All right. One button to click. OK. All right, you saw that. Alicia, what is this? What are you thinking right now?
So I'm seeing something that looks like rules, which I'm super used to, and I'm sure I can figure that out. But the thing that's actually kind of interesting and new to me is this add state button. So what does this state mean in the context of an orchestration?
Beats me. Why don't we click on that states tab? OK, does that help at all?
Well, now there's bubbles that say state, but I guess it looks like there's something where things start out, and then I can maybe put them in a different state.
Exactly. So this is sort of the big mental model of Salesforce IoT. And what Salesforce IoT does, when we think about devices or we think about customers or our relationships with them, we model them using states. It's sort of like a state machine, for those of you who know what state machines are. But what we're doing is we're telling Salesforce IoT, we've created this orchestration in the world of the swimming pool, and we're thinking about swimming pools. And what we want to do in Salesforce IoT is we want to capture the state of that swimming pool so that we can understand what state it is and what actions we need to take to put it into the state that we want it to be for our customers. So right now, we see something called default. It's because everything has a default state, right? But when we think about our swimming pool use case, where we want to do two things, if it's in a good state, do nothing, and the pH level goes crazy, what do we want to do? We want to create a swimming pool alert or something.
I want to create an alert, and then that alert I have a bunch of logic tied to that takes action.
Because the pool is in
a bad state.
Right. And so we have to tell Salesforce IoT, what are the states that we care about for this world, right? So what do you think, Alicia?
So I'm going to go ahead and rename this default state to normal pH, because that is how most of our pools will hopefully be.
That is an apt name.
But then I also want to add another state. And in the long run, I'm going to have probably a high pH state and a low pH state. But I'm going to start simple for right now, so I'll just do high pH.
I love starting simple. OK, so what we've done now is we've told Salesforce IoT that swimming pools can be in two states right now. They can be in a normal state and a high pH state. But what haven't we done, Alicia?
Well, I need a way for the pools to actually go between those states.
Exactly, because how do you get one pool from one state to another state, right? And so what we need to do is we need to tell Salesforce IoT there exists a transition. So a normal pH pool can become a high pH pool. And a high pH pool, can it receive redemption?
Yeah, definitely. So the entire goal for me is to help our service technicians get out and help customers when needed. And when it's not needed, when the customer can fix it themselves using some chemicals that they have, instruct them how to do that. So I want to be able to fix the problem for the customers.
Sometimes it might just be simple, just drop a Alka-Seltzer in the pool.
I wish it were that
so what
simple.
we're doing now, all right, Alicia, there you go, Alicia. So what we've done now is we've told Salesforce IoT, I care about the pool, and the pool can be in 2 states. That's what I care about, normal state, pH state, high pH state, and a swimming pool can go from one state to the other and back. So let's switch back to the rules view.
Okay, so some of that information has filled in. So I now see the extra state. I see some transitions that are happening as sort of the result of a condition check. Mm-hmm. But I still need to define what actually makes that happen, the if part.
Right, we have to tell Salesforce IoT, okay, I've told you that a pool can go from one state to the other, but I haven't told you how. And so that's what this is here. So what do you think?
Well, I guess the thing that I'm really reading is that platform event. And when I get the platform event that has an abnormal pH, that's how I know to move to a different state.
Perfect. So let's take a look. When an event comes in, so events coming in is data telling me I need to update my world. And so what we're telling Salesforce now is, hey, when that reading comes in, check the pH level. And if it's crazy, the pool is now in a bad state, and I need you to upgrade that or update that, Salesforce. Okay, and now we're going to have a rule that says swimming pools can receive redemption. And so when the pH reading comes back in, and the pH is back to a normal level, then I need you to update the state of that pool back to the normal state. Okay, so that's sort of the rules of our world now. But we're still missing one key piece, one very valuable piece. What do you think it is, Alicia?
Well, I'm basically modeling the world right now, but I'm not having any effect on it. So I want to add that piece that's going to allow people in my organization to take action based on the results of these readings.
Exactly. We need to sort of be the agents of action here, right? Mm-hmm. And so what are we going to do when we want to do action? We're going to click on the button that says Add an Action. Perfect. So what do we want to do, though?
Well, so I want to
set up in Salesforce?
I want to create a Salesforce record, and I have a swimming pool alert that I've already made, and I basically want to create one of those objects. So it's right there,
wow.
And then I'll make a new one of these.
Wow. So you're telling me that Salesforce IoT can create both custom objects and standard objects? I'm telling you. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
So let's go ahead. Whoa. Okay. So what do you think that red star means?
Well, so that's usually a required field. But my question here is that all the action I took in the rules was based on those events that were coming in. Now, these the form fields that I have listed here for the custom object, that data is not coming from the event. It's actually really expensive when we were going to set up our sensors to have all the contact information for the customer being sent with the event every time. It just got so expensive on the mobile network. So we only have that data stored in Salesforce in our swimming pool object.
That makes sense.
Can I access those fields here?
Absolutely, absolutely, because they are in the world of your context. Remember when we set up that context in the first place, we did 2 things. We told Salesforce IoT, bring in a Salesforce object, which is called the swimming pool. And second, we said, listen to those events. And so what Alicia is doing now is she's able to directly access the fields on that swimming pool record and bring them into her orchestration and just use them dynamically. And so they're going to populate.
Now, these last 2 fields are free text fields that I've added to my alert, and I use them to help our service technicians understand where alerts are coming from. So sometimes our customers have really old pH test strips at home. They use them, they get a crazy reading. It doesn't actually mean that anything's wrong. So I like to provide the service reps with an idea of, sort of how good of a guess we actually have that something's wrong. In this case, I think it would be really helpful to say that IoT generated the event, or generated the alert, and that's going to let them know that they can have a high degree of confidence that this is actually a real alert.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, so it looks like the only thing I have to do now is give this a name, which is that I'm creating a pH alert.
Why do we name things, Alicia?
Because it helps me understand sort of what I'm looking at when I go to review later the work that I've done, or to show it off to other people in my team.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, So, Alicia, read this to me. Read this to me. Read this screen to me now.
Okay, so anytime that I'm in a normal pH state and I receive a pH reading with an abnormally high pH value, I'm going to create an alert and then transition into this high pH state. Whenever I'm in that high pH state and I receive a pH reading with a value that goes back to normal, then I'm going to transition back to that normal pH state.
So is it just me, or does this screen read like English?
It felt like English to me.
And when you typed in those things, you only had to type in like 2 keys, then you clicked.
Right.
Perfect.
It was a pretty declarative
so
rule
easy.
writing experience.
I love it. Okay, I sure hope this works. Let's go ahead and activate this thing. And let's go ahead and think. Let's look at the screen. What just changed, Alicia?
So there was something that was gray that's no longer gray. And it looks like this traffic page. So this is really similar to the states view earlier that I used to create the different categories that my pools can be in. But I have this other area here. So can you explain to me what an instance is?
I don't know. I don't like thinking about things. What we should just do is we should take action and send a pool event in using Workbench by pressing Command tilde. All right.
OK, so here's a pool. I know that I have a pool with this serial number. And that's a normal pH. So I guess I'll go ahead and test with this one. So I can just send the event in, and IoT should receive it.
What do you expect to happen?
Well, I am kind of hoping that IoT starts monitoring this pool whenever it receives an event about it.
And what should Salesforce IoT think about this pool when it comes
It should think that it's in a normal state because 7.5 is the preferred pH for a swimming pool.
All right, let's execute. Engage.
All right, so it says that the event was successfully received. And then hopefully I will start seeing, so now I have the pool being shown on my traffic view of my orchestration. So I can see that it's successfully being monitored by IoT now.
Exactly, and we saw that 0 become a 1. And so what that number is tracking the number of swimming pools in the system right now. And one of those swimming pools is in the state of having a normal pH level. So what if we send in another swimming pool?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I want to see what happens if I can track multiple swimming pools at once. So I'll just go pick another serial number. I'm going to click execute again and see what happens. Wow.
Whoa.
OK,
Whoa.
So now I have 2 pools being tracked. And since I sent the same normal pH, they're sitting in the normal state.
Whoa, that was so fast.
But what happens if I send an event that implies a pool got to an unhealthy state? So I'll use this one since I know that it actually exists. And pH of 8.5 is not going to be healthy for people to be swimming in. So I'll try that one out. And now this view changed. So rather than having 2 of these pools listed in the normal pH state, one of them is sitting in the high pH state.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense because the second pool that I sent in, I didn't provide IoT with any more data that implied that anything had changed about it. It only reacted to the event about the one that sent an unhealthy pH reading.
Right, so what we've done, right, is we've told IoT start modeling the world of my orchestration by thinking about swimming pools. Then listen to event data as it comes in and act on that data to update what your view of the world is and perhaps take action. So the final thing we need to do
I want to check that I actually took action. So my
Right.
whole goal was to really create this swimming pool alert. So these are my pools here that I have. And then if I go over here, I have swimming pool alerts. So I loaded this page earlier, 36 minutes ago. Hopefully, if I go ahead and refresh, I'll be able to see that newly created alert. And there it is. And it even listed all of the data about that pool that I got from the swimming pool custom object.
And you didn't enter that in manually, did you?
No, the only thing that I sent on the event was the pH reading and the pool ID. But now Salesforce was able to create a pH alert with a bunch of information that I already put into Salesforce.
Using?
The context.
Exactly. And so what we did was we were able to take the event data, we were able to join it together with the context data, we call that context enrichment, and turn that into tangible output. Excellent. Excellent.
Great. The next thing I really want to do is honestly leave you here so I can go finish building out my orchestration and adding in new pH states for low pH, start monitoring the chlorine levels maybe, and making this an even more exciting experience for my customers.
Are you telling me that we can do more complex things than just having 2 states in our world?
Well, that's what I would guess, right? I could add 2 states, so why can't I add 3 or 4 or 5?
Why don't you give me some tips for success?
Absolutely. All right, so now that Alicia has been successful in creating her first IoT orchestration, let's talk about a couple things that are necessary for you to be successful as you embark on this journey. So, number one tip that we have is think about your users when you actually go through this. Write a user story. Whether it's for an imaginary user or whether it's for a real use case that exists at your company, figure out what the problem is that you're trying to solve. Next, figure out what the actual natural states are of those devices or those customers. Figure out how they move between those states. Build out that little state diagram that we started with. Finally, go into the rules section and actually write the logic that explains how one of those devices or customers transitions from one state to the other. Start simple, add complexity, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you to test out your work as you go. So last thing, probably what's hopefully at the forefront of everybody's mind is how can I get this for free? Lucky for you, it's very easy. If you create a new developer edition org or go into one that you already have, go into the setup tab and search for IoT. You should see all these objects there. Remember that for platform events, you search platform events. There's a trailhead that just launched last week that'll walk you through how to do a very, very similar use case. So feel free to check that out as well. But this should be all the things that are necessary for you to get started with your very first IoT baby steps.
Are you telling me that I don't have to buy it to try it, so I can be a Trailblazer before I am a Trailblazer?
You can, and that was a brand new joke that I just heard for the first time today.
Thank you. Came up with it
on the spot.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for your attention, and hopefully this has been a really quick introduction to how easy it is to get started with IoT. We appreciate you being here this morning, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Questions? Preguntas.
Yeah, there's a microphone, sorry, right there.
Yeah, when you build your context, use selected platform events. Is that platform events is only supported in context?
Sorry, what was the last part of your question?
So platform event
Yes.
is only supported object for context?
So you would select the platform events are always going to be the event messages that we act on. Okay. You can select multiple platform events for a single context, though. So you could react to both pH readings, for instance, and also chlorine readings. So you could have separate platform events that are created with different data coming in.
Okay, but it has to be platform event.
Yes,
okay.
yeah. So that is the standard Salesforce message bus at this time that we react to.
Okay, thank you.
You have to make sure that all the event data coming in, though, has a key field on it so that we can tie them all together to a single object, right?
And as you saw here, our key fields have different names. So on the platform event, it's called pool ID. And on the Salesforce object, it's called ID. The names of the fields don't have to match, but you just want to make sure that the values coming in will be the same. So if you have a pool ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it needs to attach that ID to every single event that it sends if you want to be able to match it up.
Just feel free to come up and stuff, yeah.
So if you had a state field on your swimming pool object, could you have just updated that field?
You could have done that.
Just keep a status field on there?
I think what we've seen with our customers is usually they just have a whole lot of raw event data, and then the business people figure out how they want to model the world using that data. And so that seems to be the pattern that we saw.
Mm-hmm. Usually a lot of the time what happens is it's a more complex operation over time. You end up, sometimes doing some math, but you could obviously, for instance, figure out if the rate of change is not getting to a healthy state and it's not converging to a healthy state. So you can do operations that would be a little bit too complex for a sensor to be able to send on its own. One advantage of doing this logic inside of Salesforce instead of on the device is that you can use basically a really stupid sensor, a really stupid device. It doesn't need to be smart. So a lot of our customers are working with older, often industrial equipment, and they actually buy aftermarket sensors to attach to these machines. And those things honestly are going to report temperature, pressure, that type of data. They can't do any processing themselves to be able to send more rich information.
I was wondering, can you run Apex directly out of an orchestration, or do you need to go through a trigger or something to get
Yeah,
there?
for now you have to, I think the best way to do it is you can actually publish a platform event out of the orchestration, because a platform event is just like any other Salesforce object. Then you can put an Apex trigger on that platform event. Michelle's actually doing a talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, so the talk at 11:15 tomorrow. We're doing it more on the input side, but it's also really easy to figure out how to extend that to the output side, where we create a platform event, and when that event is published, we have a trigger attached to it. that breaks a single platform event up into 3 related ones. And the situation we're modeling there is a home gateway. A lot of customers have a gateway device that collects information from multiple sensors and sends it all in one go. And that saves a lot of bandwidth, for instance, so you're not paying a ton for the sort of mobile signal that has to send the data.
How do you clean up the data after a while? I mean, you don't want to keep this forever in the system because it's going to fill up.
Right. So the first thing is that Salesforce IoT is not positioned as a data lake. All we are keeping is the states and the number of sort of the transitions in between the states. And so the thing about the state machine is, once you get to a certain state, it doesn't really matter how you got there. It doesn't matter that the pool pH level was high, low, high, low, 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 high, 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 low in the history, right? It just matters what it is now. And so the amount of storage that these things sort of take up is actually pretty minimal. And a lot of it is sort of just how complex your thing gets. But we haven't seen customers having huge amount of storage being taken up by this.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, since it's all event-driven, you don't really have to worry about whether past events were wrong. As long as you get a new event, you're able to react to it appropriately. So you're not relying on a very specific series of linear steps to get you to a correct outcome. You can basically just rely on the fact that at some point, you'll get information that corrects your view of the world. And that's also really helpful because, as we know with most sort of publish-subscribe architectures, there's a ton of sort of internet devices in between the device and Salesforce. Any one of those could end up dropping a message and having an issue, right? So if I'm sending information from a connected home device that uses my router at home, if my internet goes down, I'm not getting a couple device readings for a while. So being able to course correct is something that's actually really important for being able to create appropriate customer experiences.
Right. We don't actually store the event data either. We just pick it up from platform events, we listen to it, then we discard it after we're done. And the other thing we forgot to mention, actually, we didn't demonstrate this, but if you see some of our other demos, is you don't have to just act on event data. You can also act on data from Salesforce. For example, if we open a case or a work order and it gets closed, the Salesforce object field gets closed, you can actually trigger on that as well. And you can move states and take actions based off of Salesforce core as well.
Good morning. I didn't study the orchestration form that you had up before carefully enough, but when I think of a state machine, usually I'd say I'm in state X, and when I get input A, I transition to state Y. If I get input W, I transition to state Q. So where I could transition was based both on the inputs and the current state.
Yes.
Is that true in here? I don't
Yeah.
know if I saw that.
Yeah. So there's multiple different models for state machines. This is more reminiscent of a mealy state machine, and a more state machine would be more just action based on transitions.
Right.
This one, since it's taking action on both the combination of inputs and the current state, is closer to a mealy state machine. But we have characteristics of a sort of, honestly, a very flexible style of state machines.
I get merely more state machines. The question was, is where I end up a function of the input and the current state, or is it just a function of the input?
It's a function of both,
Yeah.
right? And so the state that we're in is right here,
Thank
normal
you. I
pH.
missed
So that's basically like your overall if. Just validate against that. So that's your first if. It only executes the rules that are in the current state that you're in.
So if I'm in a high pH state and I get a platform event where the pH reading is high, there's no transition defined, so that event's ignored then?
Yeah, so in this case, the way that we've set it up, that event would be ignored.
Thank you.
You could say, for instance, that if you get, maybe if you get like 5 high readings, for instance, you can also create variables that are associated with the swimming pools. So you could keep a count, for instance, of how many of those readings you've gotten, and you could escalate a case, for instance, if you received 5 high readings after transitioning into that high state. So there's a wide variety of functionality that you can add as you iterate with your use case.
So I could add an action that says increment a counter, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay,
click in
that's
there.
perfect.
Do you want to set it up, and then I can talk about
Thank
You
you.
can set it up.
Or-
So you can do something like this where you can assign a value to a variable, and then you can start changing the value around.
And so the other thing is we sort of implicitly were saying if the pH reading is greater than 7.5 and the pool is already in a high pH state, we don't care because we already know it's in a high pH state. So we're just ignoring those things.
Okay, sorry, I have another question. If you don't get an event, can you trigger on that?
Right now,
Because
so
if the pool is broken or the sensor is broken, you still want to see that.
right, and so what we do is we have a lot of customers who have something called what is called heartbeat. they have a heartbeat thing where we can actually, we didn't show this because it's a little more advanced, but we have something called timers. And so what we can say is if this, if this particular pool has been in this state for an hour and it hasn't received a new event, then transition to this new state, which is like this sensor is not uploading new data. And so that's actually a very common pattern.
And the way that you would do that would be by having, sort of a waiting state or like a health check state. And as soon as it received event, it would likely transition to another state that could take action immediately. So there's also rules that allow you, there's rule types that allow you to take action when you enter a state. So you could have that single event trigger a transition to a new state, execute some logic, take some action. And as long as you basically stay in that state, you'll have a timer sort of count down eventually. If nothing happens, then you can take action, like create a case. Yes.
If an existing swimming pool which is having a high pH gets turned to normal, will it be treated as a count of 1 or 2?
1. I mean, I guess that we can show this, right?
Right. So right now there's 2 pools. And so
We're
we're just talking about that pool with that ID, right? And so that pool with that ID will always have a single presence in our system because our system is tracking that single pool, right?
I said it was less than, I'll put it in 7.
Mm-hmm. Oh dear.
It was 7 or 7.5.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go.
It's the one that was originally in the normal pH state. Okay, we are over time, I think. Are we?
Yes, we're over time. All right, so we'll be here to answer any additional questions that you have. Our email addresses are also on the first slide, so feel free to download the slides once we get them up and get in touch with us. But thank you so much for learning about IoT.
Try it out.